Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to SYMP Saturday. I hope everyone has said their merry prayers, because we are in for many a scare tonight. I will be your host for the evening. I go by Merry Mitch, but for tonight, you may call me Malicious Mitch. I pray everyone's day has been going pleasantly thus far, because soon enough it will be going not nearly as pleasantly. More like Scary Mitch. No doubt about it. Hey everybody, sorry, I try to put on a little act at least at the start here. But in all honesty, I hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to the stream. We are here. As you can see, I have sent Tyson to the pits of hell. Sadly, I know it's not doing much. I mean, look at him in there. He's smiling. He likes it. I think he likes it. This is not good. I just need to banish him entirely. Hang on. Trying to remember the incantation. Tyronus Balonus. Nice. Very good. I thought that was the one. Alright, so now that we've gotten Tyson out of the way, I think we can actually get down to business. Heck yeah, are we ready for some spooky tales? On the roster this evening, we have a number of tales. I'm going to be reading 2 creepypastas. One by a Stephanie Sism, and another by someone we know quite well at this point, Vincent Vena Cava. We also have one called The Pelican Bar by Karen Joy Fowler. One called The Monkey Spoons. And yes, it is titled The Monkey Spoons by Mary Elizabeth Councilman. And Dress of White Silk by Richard Matheson. I'm excited for that one. I think we're going to start off with Dress of White Silk. Yeah, dude, you heard me right. Monkey. Dude, the monkey is going to spoon you. That's the most terrifying part. I have a feeling I'm going to shit my pants tonight. You and me both, my man. Alright. Well, yeah, I say we just go ahead and get into it. We also have a webcomic, that was suggested to me by the Nightlight, someone that you may have seen in chat before, and seems like a good one. I think it's a well-known one, at the very least, one that a few people may have come across. I would agree. It is a bit of a weeb comic. Not even gonna lie. I said that on accident, but it's not wrong. All right, heck yeah. So without further ado. Without further ado. Let's go ahead and do this thing. Sorry, that color source is there for the creepypastas, not this one. All right. This is Dress of White Silk by Richard Matheson. Quiet is here, and all in me. Grandma locked me in my room and won't let me out, because it's happened, she says. I guess it was bad. Only it was the dress. Mama's dress, I mean. She has gone away forever. Grandma says your mama is in heaven. I don't know how. Can she go in heaven if she's dead? And now I hear Grandma. She's in Mama's room. She's putting Mama's dress down the box. Why does she always? And locks it, too. I wish she didn't. It's a pretty dress, and smells sweet, too, and warm. I love to touch it against my cheek, but I can't never again. I guess that is why Grandma is mad at me. But I am sure. All day it was only like every day. Mary Jane came over to my house. She lives across the street. Every day she comes to my house and play. Today she was. I have 7 dolls and a fire truck. Today Grandma said play with your dolls and it. Don't you go inside your mama's room now, she said. She always says it. She just means not mess up, I think, because she says it all the time. Don't go in your mama's room, like that. But it's nice in Mama's room. When it rains, I go there, or when Grandma is doing her nap, I do. I don't make noise. I just sit on the bed and touch the white cover, like when I was only small. The room smells like sweet. I make believe Mama is dressing, and I am allowed in. I smell her white silk dress, her going out for night dress. She called it that. I don't remember when. I heard it moving if I listened hard. I make believe to see her sitting at the dressing table, like touching on perfume or something, I mean, and see her dark eyes. I can remember. It's so nice if it rains and I see eyes on the window. The rain sounds like a big giant outside. He says shush, shush, so everyone will be quiet. I like to make believe that in Mama's room. What I like almost best is to sit at Mama's dressing table. It is like pink and big and smells sweet too. The seat in front has a pillow sewed in it. There are bottles and bottles with bumps and have colored perfume in them. And you can see almost your whole self in the mirror. When I sit there, I make believe to be Mama. I say, "Be quiet, Mother. I'm going out, and you cannot stop me." It is something I say. I don't know why I like to hear it in me. And, oh, stop your sobbing, Mother. They will not catch me. I have my magic dress. When I pretend, I brush my hair long. But I only use my own brush from my room. I didn't ever use Mama's brush. I don't think Grandma is mad at me for that, because I never use Mama's brush. I wouldn't ever. Sometimes I did open the box up, because I know where Mama puts the key. I saw her once when she wouldn't know I saw her. She puts the key on the hook in Mama's closet. Behind the door, I mean. I could open the box lots of times. That's because I like to look at Mama's dress. I like best to look at it. It is so pretty and feels soft and like silky. I could touch it for 1,000,000 years. I kneel on the rug with roses on it. I hold the dress in my arms and I breathe from it. I touch it against my cheek. I wish I could take it to sleep with me and hold it. I like to. Now I can't. Because Grandma says, and she says I should burn it up. But I loved her so. And she cries about the dress. I was never bad with it. I put it back neat like it was, never touched. Grandma never knew. I laughed that she never knew before. But she knows now I did it, I guess. and she'll punish me. What did it hurt her? Wasn't it my mama's dress? Wasn't it my mama's dress? What I like real best in Mama's room is look at the picture of Mama. It has a gold thing around it. Frame is what Grandma says. It is on the wall on top of the bureau. Mama is pretty. Your mama was pretty, Grandma says. Why does she? I see Mama there smiling on me, and she is pretty, for always. Her hair is black, like mine. Her eyes are even prettier like black. Her mouth is red, so red. I like the dress, and it's the white one. It is all down on her shoulders. Her skin is white, almost white like the dress, and so are her hands. She is so pretty. I love her, even if she's gone away forever. I love her so much. I guess I think that's what made me bad. I mean, to Mary Jane. Mary Jane came from lunch like she does. Grandma went to do her nap. She said, "Don't forget now, no going to your mama's room." I told her no, Grandma. I was saying the truth, but then Mary Jane and I was playing fire truck. Mary Jane said, "I bet you haven't no mother. I bet you made it all up," she said. I got mad at her. I have a mama, I know. She made me mad at her to say I made it all up. She said I'm a liar. I mean about the bed and the dressing table and the picture and the dress even and everything. I said, "Well, I'll show you, smarty." I looked into Grandma's room. She was still doing her nap, still. I went down and said, "Mary Jane, to come on, because Grandma won't know." She wasn't so smart after then. She giggled like she does. Even she made a scaredly noise when she hit into the table in the hall upstairs. I guess you'd a scaredy cat to her. I guess you're a scaredy cat to her. She said back, "Well, my house isn't so dark like this." Like that was so much. We went into Mama's room. It was more dark than you could see. I said this was my mama's room. I suppose I made it all up. She was up by the door, and she wasn't smart then either. She didn't say any word. She looked around the room. She jumped when I got her arm. "Well, come on," I said. I sat on the bed and said, "This is my mama's bed. See how soft it is?" She didn't say nothing. "Scaredy cat," I said. "Am not," she said, like she does. I said to sit down. "How can you tell if it's soft if you don't sit down?" She sat down with me. I said, "Feel how soft it is. Smell how sweet it is." I closed my eyes, but funny it wasn't, like always, because Mary Jane was there. I told her to stop feeling the cover. "You said to," she said. "Well, stop it," I said. "See," I said, and I pulled her up. "That's the dressing table." I took her and brought her there. She said, "Let go." It was so quiet and like always. I started to feel bad, because Mary Jane was there, because it was in my mama's room, and Mama wouldn't like Mary Jane there. But I had to show her the things because I showed her the mirror. We looked at each other in it. She looked white. "Mary Jane is a scaredy cat," I said. "Am not." Am not," she said. Anyway, nobody's house is so quiet and dark inside. Anyway, she said it smells. I got mad at her. "No, it doesn't smell," I said. "It does so," she said. "You said it did." I got madder too. "It smells like sugar," she said. "It smells like sick people in your mama's room." "Don't say my mama's room is like sick people," I said to her. "Well, you didn't show me no dress, and you're lying," she said. "There isn't no dress." I felt all warm inside, so I pulled her hair. "I'll show you," I said. "You're going to see my mama's dress. You'll better not call me a liar." I made her stand still, and I got the key off the hook. I kneeled down. I opened the box with the key. Mary Jane said, "Phew, that smells like garbage." I put my nails in her. She pulled away and got mad. "Don't you pinch me," she said. She was all red. "I'm telling my mother on you," she said. "And anyway, it's not a white dress. It's dirty and ugly," she said. "It's not dirty," I said. I said it so loud, I wonder why Grandma didn't hear. I pulled out the dress from the box, held it up to show her how white it is. It fell open like the rain, whispering, and the bottom touched on the rug. "It is too white," I said, "all white and clean and silky." "No," she said. She was so mad and red. "It has a hole in it." I got more madder. "If my mama was here, she'd show you," I said. "You got no mama," she said, all ugly. "I hate her." "I have." I said it way loud. I pointed my finger to Mama's picture. "Well, who can see at this stupid dark? Or who can see in this stupid dark room?" she said. I pushed her hard. She hit against the burra. "See then," I said, "mean." Or, "See then," I said, "mean. Look at the picture. That's my mama. She's the most beautiful lady in the world." "She's ugly. She has funny hands," Mary Jane said. "She hasn't," I said. "She's the most beautiful lady in the world." Not," she said. "She has buck teeth." I don't remember then. I think the dress moved in my arms. Mary Jane screamed. I don't remember what. It got dark and the curtains were closed, I think. I couldn't see anyway. I couldn't hear nothing but except buck teeth, funny hands, buck teeth, funny hands, even when no one was saying it. And there was something else, because I think I heard someone call, "Don't let her say that." I couldn't hold to the dress, and I had it on me, I can't remember, because I was grown up strong. But I was a little girl still, I think. I mean, outside. I think I was terrible bad then. Grandma took me away from there, I guess. I don't know. She was screaming, "God help us. It's happened. It's happened." Over and over. I don't know why. She pulled me all the way here to my room and locked me in. She won't let me out. Well, I'm not so scared. Who cares if she locks me in a million billion years? She doesn't have to even give me supper. I'm not hungry anyway. I'm full. Yikes, dude. I'm full. I'm full. I think so. Sorry, the accent kind of developed as the story went forward. I hope that wasn't too abrupt. But I soon realized that it was, I don't know, it sounded a lot better to me in a in a more like country accent. Dude, I love Four. Isn't Four the best, guys? Psh, holla, dude. Can I get some pogs in the chat if you're a fan of Four? Why was the girl so rude? I don't know. It seemed like the kid, like the other kid, wasn't much better. Yeah, dude, they were both rude. Also, like I feel like that's the way it is with certain encounters. You know, if one person is spewing mean insults or just anger towards one person, it's really easy to take it and spew it right back, you know? It's the easiest thing to do, in my opinion, if you're being yelled at or if yeah, if there's like an argument going on. But she was antagonizing the man a lot. Yeah. Yeah, dude. Plus, they're I believe this is the perspective from like a little kid. And if especially with little kids, if they get into like a mean way towards each other, it's hard to get them out of it. You did say Maine? You meant to say Maine. She was antagonizing the main a lot, like the main character. Gotcha, gotcha. All right, cool beans. All right, that one was interesting. That was written very curiously too. I haven't seen anyone write like that ever before. I don't know about you guys, where it like truly is from the person's perspective, because it's written out like a train of thought rather than actual coherent sentences. um, which made for an interesting read. I will say it makes it a little more difficult for reading it aloud, no doubt. Took me a little while to like get an idea of of how it actually was meant to flow. Oh yeah, dude, doing some real weird stuff grammatically. Yeah, especially the part, um I think right here, right? Yeah, I couldn't hear nothing except buck teeth, funny hands, buck teeth, funny hands. And anytime like there's meant to be quotation marks, you know, uh let me see if I can find a good example. Yeah, no, no, like this should be in quotation marks. And then she said she was so mad, uh, and read it and read. Oh yeah, and she was so mad and read. And then this ought to again be in quotation marks. It has a hole in it. Um, that's the kind of stuff that really tripped me up. um, yeah, that was interesting. Very interesting. All right, so what do we want next? Do we want a creepy pasta? Do we want the spooning monkey? Um, or do we want Pelican Bar? Or I'll just say this: like, do you want creepy pasta or one from a not creepy pasta author? One for type one in chat for creepy pasta, two in chat for other. All three at once. Let's go. Let me see. Let's get. No, stop. Stop. Dude, what? Okay, never mind. I was gonna try to do a bit, but my computer's not having it. 111. All right, creepy pasta, I think is the consensus. Right on. Well, we have dandelions or the pastel man. The pastel man. The pastel man is quite a long one. This one is honestly about as long, a little bit less. You want to do pastel? All right, we're gonna jump right into it, man. This is by Vincent V. Cava, the same one that wrote "Favor for a Favor," which we read last time, and "Picture This," which we read when I got my first donation from Omni Whalelord. Shout outs to Omni Whalelord, by the way, for introducing me to Vincent V. Cava. I hadn't heard of this writer before, but now I have. Alright, guys. Strap in. This is The Pastel Man by Vincent Van Cava. Consider this a warning. In the event it ever comes to you during a moment of weakness, as it did me all those years ago, say no to the Pastel Man. It doesn't matter how much you love the person that it promises to help. Nothing is worth what it wants in return. I tell you this in hopes that you don't make the same mistake I did that cool winter night, kneeling beside my father's writhing body on the living room floor. It was 1997 when I first encountered the creature, and ever since, not a day has gone by where its awful face hasn't haunted my thoughts. I was a teenager then, but I look at that evening as the night my childhood died, corrupted and violated by a callous hell beast with pale blue skin. Even though it happened years ago, I still remember the events of that fateful first encounter vividly. I could tell you what my father and I were wearing, the toppings on the pizza we were eating, even the score of the football game playing on the TV. It was around halftime when my father's speech started to become slurred, which I found odd, since he had been nursing the same bottle of beer since kickoff. Stranger even, I had seen him drink a six-pack to himself in the past, without even appearing tipsy. So I was having trouble understanding how a single drink could have such an effect on him. I realized it wasn't the alcohol when half his body went limp and he slid off the couch. I asked him if he was all right, but his words had now become incomprehensible. I grabbed the phone off the coffee table and dialed 911. 911? What's your emergency? I think my dad's having a stroke. The thought had only crossed my mind a second before the operator answered the phone. Okay, we have your address. An ambulance is on its way. It should be there soon. Is he conscious? Yes, he is, but I can't understand him. Nonsensical, jumbled sounds were rambling out of my father's mouth. I was afraid. He was all I had. My mother passed away when I was a baby, so I never got the chance to know her. But my dad was always there for me, doing the job of two parents. If I lost him, then I would be alone. That's normal with strokes. It's good that he's awake. And I didn't hear the rest, because that's when I dropped the phone. I was having one of those moments where everything faded into the background, while my world fell silent. The football game playing on the television, the operator giving me instructions over the phone, even the sound of my father's voice as he wailed in agony on the carpet became white noise, dissolving into the air as I lost all awareness of my surroundings. All of my attention and focus was now on one thing. The horrible abomination that was standing in my kitchen, watching my father and I with a twisted smile across its disgusting face. Its head narrowly missed scraping against our kitchen's 9-foot ceiling as it shifted from side to side, fidgeting with anticipation like a giddy child in class on the last day of school, waiting for that final bell to signal summer vacation. The pastel blue skin that covered its entire body, from the creature's head all the way down to its feet, horrible, grimy feet, looked weathered and wrinkled like leather that had been left out in the sun for days. Hanging off its long, lanky frame was a plain brown satchel with black stitching. It lightly caressed the strap of its pouch with a long finger while it looked on with an eager expression on its face. At first, I thought I had gone mad from the sight of seeing my father have a stroke, but the closer the monstrosity slinked towards us, the more I realized it was no hallucination. It ducked its head under the light fixture in the living room and stepped a spindly leg over the couch. Though the monstrous freak of nature was clearly bipedal, it had moved down to all fours and appeared to be stalking us like some wild animal hunting its prey. I should have been terrified, but the horrible smile on its god-awful face made me feel more anger towards the thing than fear. It was as if it was taking pleasure in my father's misery. Closer still it crept, and I grabbed my father's hand out of desperation in some veiled attempt to protect him. The creature stopped its face mere inches from mine before shifting its attention to my father. "I can save him, if you'd like." I was taken aback. I had prepared for the terrible thing to take a chunk of flesh out of my neck with its teeth, or slash me across the face with its black, crusty nails. But speaking to me was the last thing I expected. He's dying, but I can save him, if you'd like." I sat there, mouth agape, cradling my father's head in my arm, and staring into the two pink, bulbous eyes that took up more than a third of the foul thing's face. I remember thinking that they reminded me of Easter eggs, a bizarre connection for my mind to make, given the situation. It stood back up on 2 feet, and once again I was reminded just how imposing the creature really was. It told me its name, which I dare not repeat, because it also explained that speaking it is the best way to summon the beast. For the remainder of my story, I will refer to this entity as the Pastel Man. Just a name I came up with due to the pigment of its skin and the light shade of pink that was the color of its eyes. That, and for some reason, giving the creature a silly name always helped to make me feel less afraid of it. Not much less, though. Finally, my mind had recovered enough from shock to allow me to stutter out a few words. What do you mean you could save him?" "What I do is make deals, young man." "Oh. What I do is make deals, young man." Its voice was surprisingly angelic, like 1,000 choirs all singing in unison. If one were to close their eyes while the creature spoke to them, they might imagine they were listening to a seraph, not the hideous monster that was sporting a depraved grin in my living room. However, its extraordinary voice only managed to make me feel more uneasy. It wasn't right that something so beautiful would belong to such a repulsive creature. The Pastel Man gestured to its satchel, I have the ability to save your father's life, but you have to agree to a deal with me. What kind of deal? Everything happens for a reason, even death. Its mischievous smile widened just a bit, as if the creature was getting to the punchline of a joke. It's true I can save your father's life, but someone must die in his place. One shall die, so another may live. That's the deal. I clutched my chest. Not you. What would be the point? No, I'm giving you the option to choose. The person who will be replacing your father this evening. I was stunned by what I was hearing. Are you Death? The pastel man threw its head back and let out a terrible howl. It was only later I would come to realize that was how the wretched thing laughed. No! I'm certainly not the Grim Reaper. Although you aren't the first person to ask me that. I'm not the devil either, nor do I work for him. Let's just say I'm an independent contractor, shall we? Two tiny holes that lied on the center of its face, in the absence of a nose, flared in satisfaction of its explanation. I can choose anyone. Well, not anyone. That wouldn't be very fun, would it? I could see a row of shark-like teeth hiding in its mouth as it separated its lips to speak. Your father's replacement must be someone else in your life. I'm not a murderer. My voice was tiny. It barely escaped my mouth. I looked back down to my father. He had lost consciousness, and his skin was becoming pale. And I don't think I could kill anyone I know. You don't have to murder anyone, young man. The sly creature was moving into its final pitch. All you have to do is tell me who you want dead, and I will do the rest. Surely there must be someone you wouldn't mind out of your life? A teacher, an ex-girlfriend, a rival at school, perhaps? There was. I had fantasized about it many times, but never in my wildest dreams would I have ever acted on it. Everyone has that person in their life who is toxic. Someone who makes getting up in the morning more difficult, and I was certainly no exception. Walter Flanagan, I muttered under my breath. Who? Walter Flanagan. He's the guy at school who gave me this. I lifted my shirt and showed it the handprint-shaped bruise on my chest that Walter had given me during one of his infamous hazing sessions in the locker room earlier that week. He's been shoving me into lockers and beating me up since I was a freshman. The faculty doesn't do anything, since he's the best football player in the history of our school. He's a 5-star recruit going to a huge college next year. ESPN even did a piece on him. Ah. The pastel man began to snicker to itself. It somehow widened its already enormous pink eyes even more, then crouched back down to get face to face with me again. What fun is being king without serfs to torment, eh? Well, I'm tired of being tormented, so just go and kill him before I change my mind. The pastel man shot a massive hand out and wrapped its long fingers around my face. The grin that it was wearing since I first laid eyes on it had now been replaced by a scowl. You do not tell me what to do! Are we clear? I nodded sheepishly. The grip it had on my face was so tight, I understood then and there that if it wanted to, the creature could easily snap my neck or crush my skull like an egg. Good, because it's not so simple, young man. There are steps that must be taken. Steps? Yes. A playful smirk once again returned to the pastel man's face. You will have to be present when this Walter Flanagan dies. In fact, I need you to summon me, or else I can't complete my end of the bargain. Get the boy alone and speak my name. You must watch him die by sunrise, or else you will be violating the terms of our agreement. So, do we have a deal? I nodded again, and the monster released its hold of my face before snatching my hand. Its giant paws swallowed my palm as we shook to cement the deal. Excellent. With this handshake, our deal is binding, young man. I watched curiously as the pastel man reached into its satchel and fumbled around until it found what it was looking for. In between its repugnant fingers, it held a strange-looking insect about the size of a quarter. The bug buzzed its wings in attempt to flutter away, but could not escape the pastel man's grasp. With its other hand, it pushed down on my father's jaw in order to open his mouth. What are you doing? I asked, but the pastel man didn't answer. It then violently stuffed the insect into my father's mouth, jamming it down his esophagus with its filthy fingers. The pastel man rose once more to its feet. There, the deed is done. Your father will recover in full. Now it's your turn. Remember, the boy dies by sunrise, or the deal is off. It turned its back to me and began to slither away. What if I change my mind? I asked. The creature stopped almost mid-stride and twisted around. Again its smile had been supplanted by an awful sneer. I felt even less safe than when it was holding my face in a vice grip earlier. Your father's health has already been restored, so someone must replace him. One must die, so another shall live. That was the deal. If you fail to complete your end of the bargain, then that someone will be you. Believe me when I say this, young man. I don't need to be summoned once our deal has been broken. I will come for you. That is a promise. And when I do, you're going to wish you never crossed me. With that, it continued out the kitchen and through the back door. I chased after it, but by the time I got outside into the backyard, the thing had disappeared. It was then that I spotted the lights of the ambulance as it pulled up across the street from my house. I flagged down the EMTs and led them to my father. It wasn't difficult to find Walter. I knew exactly where he was going to be, but I had completely lost track of time while waiting to hear from my father's doctors in the ICU. I had to hurry to Eddie Gillen's house. Eddie's parents were out of town, and he had been talking all week about the rager he planned on throwing. There were two things I knew about. There were two things I knew about Walter. Eddie was his best friend, and he never missed a party. It was somewhere around 3:30 a.m. when I pulled my car up to Eddie's. I parked a little ways down the street so I wouldn't be spotted. Because I'd gotten held up at the hospital, I feared that I had missed my chance to catch Walter. My concerns were alleviated when I saw his raised pickup truck still parked in the driveway. Another thought crossed my mind. What if Walter had gotten too drunk and passed out? I tried to think of a way to get into Eddie's and get Walter alone long enough for the pastel man to do whatever it was it had planned. Luckily for me, it wasn't too long before Walter stumbled out of Eddie's front door and climbed into his truck. I let out a sigh, having just escaped a potentially challenging problem. He pulled out, and I followed behind, staying far enough away so that I wouldn't tip him off. He was drunk. Even from the distance I was tailing him, I could see his truck swerving in and out of its lane. The pastel man's otherworldly voice played itself over and over like a heavenly broken record in my mind. You must watch him die by sunrise. I wondered if I even had the courage to summon the creature again. Seeing it once that night was traumatic enough. Could I really handle looking into its horrible face for a second time? And what about Walter? Even though he was a huge ass, he didn't deserve to die, and certainly not at the hands of that thing. It will kill you. Don't let it kill him. Or it will kill you if you don't let it kill him. Just remember, you're doing this for Dad. I'm not sure if it was the little angel on my shoulder, or the little devil that was whispering in my ear. I looked out my driver's side window. A pink ribbon lined the horizon, the very first signs of sunlight making its presence known in the dark evening sky. In a couple of hours, morning would arrive, and I would be too late to complete my end of the bargain. I would see the pastel man again, one way or another. Walter lived up in the foothills outside of town, where some of the wealthier people owned homes. I'd been there once for a school project, one where I did all the work, and he ended up taking the credit. We had come to a part of the road leading towards his house that cut through a wooded area. I knew there would be no houses for a stretch, so I decided that was where I would make my move. I sped up until I was tailgating the truck and started flashing my brights and honking my horn. I was prepared to rear-end him in order to get him to stop driving, but it didn't even take that to get the job done. He must have been panicking. His truck started to swerve violently across the street before running off-road, sideswiping a tree, and coming to a complete stop. I pulled up behind, then hesitated for a moment. A glimpse of the creature's grin flashed through my mind, causing me to shudder. I got out of my car, but left the engine running with my headlights on. "Hey, Walter!" I shouted. Walter's door jerked open, and he jumped out the truck to the ground below. "Sean the shithead?" He was confused, but clearly annoyed. Sean the shithead was the nickname he had affectionately given me on my second week of school. Within a month, he had my entire class calling me it. "You think that was funny? I'm gonna fuck you up, little bitch!" He stormed towards me, with both fists clenched. Again, doubts crossed my mind about whether or not I could pull the trigger. Guilt began to pump through my veins. Walter's life was about to end. It was going to because of me. Memories darted through my consciousness. All the after-school beatings I took at the hands of Walter. The pastel man's wicked smile. The look on my father's face as he kicked and screamed on the living room floor. Finally, those words, spoken through that unnervingly angelic voice of that terrible monster. "One must die, so another shall live." Walter was moving closer. It was now or never. I had to choose whether or not I would summon the beast before the decision was out of my hands. I shouted the pastel man's real name out in a burst of emotion aimed directly at the star football player. Walter paused for a moment, looking at me in confusion, then recollected himself and proceeded towards me again. The pastel man was nowhere to be seen. For the second time that evening, I wondered if I had gone insane. Could everything that had happened to me that night been in my head? What was real? Was my father even sick? Again, I repeated the thing's name in an effort to summon it, but this time, it did nothing to hinder Walter's pursuit of me. He violently shoved me against the hood of my car, grabbed hold of my shirt collar and spun me around. Walter raised his fist to me. I winced, put my hand up in order to prepare for impact, but he never struck me. It's only when I opened my eyes that I realized I wasn't crazy. Walter's face was white. His mouth hung open just as mine had when I first caught sight of the pastel man earlier that evening. I turned my head to see that unmistakable, long, lanky body slink out of the shadows and in front of my car's headlights. Its face still wore that warped smile, and I knew just beyond those thin lips was a mouthful of tiny daggers capable of tearing muscle from bone. Neither Walter nor I said a word. I think I might have been almost as terrified as him. My stomach began to feel sick as the pastel man stalked ever closer. I didn't look at Walter's face. How could I? The boy was about to die at the hands of this horrible monster, and it was my fault. I didn't have to summon it. I didn't have to shake its hand. I'm sorry. I truly was. And I still am. I hadn't taken my eyes off the pastel man, but I think it had more to do with not being able to look at Walter in the face than fear for my life. Walter said nothing. My car's headlights fell on the creature's face, And now we could both see it clearly. The pastel man's large pink eyes seemed to glow bright in the light of the headlamps. Walter let go of me and made a break for his truck. But the hell beast pounced on him with a surprising amount of speed and agility that I had not yet seen it demonstrate. His screams were met with only apathy from the creature as it dug those filthy black fingernails into Walter's abdomen. I tried to look away, but the pastel man made sure I remembered our agreement. "You must watch, young man. Don't forget we had a deal." I forced myself to look back at the massacre. The creature's smile had mutated from mischievous to depraved. It looked as if it was deriving some sort of sick, sexual pleasure out of the torture it was putting Walter through. Deeper still, it burrowed its long, bony fingernails into Walter's stomach. With a jerk, the heinous thing yanked out a handful of his intestines and dragged them across the ground as it approached me, flaring those holes on its face that filled in for a nose, and clearly pleased with its handiwork. "It's over then?" I'm not sure if I was asking or begging. I'm not sure if I was asking or begging the creature as the two of us faced each other in the empty street that night. The pastel man threw his head back and once again let out that revolting howl. "Over? We're just getting started." It headed back over towards Walter, who at this point was crawling along the ground, still trying to get to his truck while his innards trailed behind him. The pastel man cut him off and snatched him off the asphalt, easily lifting him by the head with one hand. It toyed with him for a bit, forcing Walter to look into his hideous face. With its free hand, the creature reached into its satchel and pulled out a much bigger insect this time. It was different than the one my father had unknowingly ingested, both in size and in appearance. If the bug that the creature jammed down my father's mouth was the size of a quarter, then this one must have been as large as a golf ball. It was slimy. The mucus-like membrane that encased its body glistened in my car's headlights. The pastel man dangled the nasty bug in front of Walter's face for a few seconds. "Now, be a good boy and open your mouth." Walter screamed. That gave the blue beast the opening it needed. It thrust the slimy insect in his mouth and past his tonsils with its filthy fingers. I watched on as Walter gagged, presumably on the oversized maggot, as it made its way down his throat. So he began to turn blue. I could tell he was choking to death, even though I wanted to save him. There was nothing I could do. A minute later, the pastel man dropped his lifeless body to the ground. It examined the carnage for a moment, pondering over it, as if it was a masterpiece in an art gallery. Then the demon turned away, retreating back towards the shadows, and disappeared into the night without saying a word. I stood there in the road, looking at the scene, and still feeling sick to my stomach from what I just witnessed. I don't know what I expected. I don't know what I expected to happen after the deed was done. There was no explosion, no brilliant light show where I would watch Walter's soul either dragged down to hell or ascend upwards toward the heavens. Just a dead boy in the road. A dead boy and his murderer. The pastel man was the gun, but I pulled the trigger. In a way, there were 2 dead boys in the road that evening. I knew that I didn't have time to dawdle. At any moment, a car could have come driving down the street and find me standing in the middle of that massacre. I sprinted back to my car and sped down the street towards town. The coroner attributed Walter's death to a drinking and driving accident, although there was understandably a lot of suspicion regarding the odd circumstances surrounding his demise. The autopsy revealed no evidence of the slimy bug that the pastel man had placed in Walter's throat. The town was devastated. I remember a candlelight vigil was held in his honor. A couple of big news outlets covered his death because of Walter's status as an elite college football recruit. My father made a full recovery, and just a couple of days after his stroke was released from the hospital. I would go on to graduate high school, meet the love of my life the very first semester at my university. Her name was Diana, and she was the most beautiful girl I had ever seen. We married shortly after college, settled down, and had a wonderful boy named Matthew. However, I never forgot the hand I played in Walter's death. I have carried that guilt with me since the events of that night. No matter how much I wanted to, I couldn't forget. The pastel man wouldn't let me. It must have seen me as an easy patsy, because the creature has come to me again and again, every time a loved one has been on the brink of death, offering me the same deal I accepted that first shameful night. Though the creature had been persistent in its pursuit of bloodlust, the image of Walter's gruesome death never left my mind, and gave me the strength to say no to its propositions. Even years later, on the eve of my father's passing, I was able to refuse its proposal when the pastel man visited me in his hospital room. I've been cursed to have my soul tested till the day that I die by the pastel man. A test that for years I was able to persevere through, until one evening where my life began crumbling down, and once more the creature took advantage of me in a moment of weakness. Diana and Matthew were on their way back from the airport after visiting my in-laws. I was swamped at work, had to pull an all-nighter in order to finish a project by its deadline, so my wife hailed a taxi rather than ask me to pick them up. It was around midnight. I was alone in the office when I got a call from the police department. They told me a drunk driver had collided with their cab on the highway coming back from the airport. My wife and the cabbie were killed on impact, and my son was in critical condition. I sat there at my desk, unable to move or formulate a coherent thought. It was then that I realized I wasn't by myself in the office anymore. Perched atop my boss's desk was the pastel man. that abhorrent smile still painted across its nasty, wrinkled face. It didn't need to make an offer. This, I believe, the creature already knew. Can you save them? Yes and no. What do you mean? Just spit it out! The pastel man's smirk disappeared, and I could tell that it was not pleased with my tone of voice. Memories of the vice grip it had on my face the last time I demanded something from the creature bled into my consciousness. Perhaps it realized I was past the point of threats, because instead of lunging at me, as the creature had done in the past, it decided to clarify its cryptic response. I cannot pull someone back from death's clutches, only save them before it gets its hold of them. Your wife is dead. Now make your peace with that. Your son's life, on the other hand, can be salvaged. For a price, of course. I racked my mind. I couldn't think of a single person in my life who deserved to die at the hands of that pale blue monstrosity. Even someone as awful as Walter didn't deserve the gruesome fate he received that night due to my poor decision. But my son was all I had now, and he didn't deserve to die either. Not because someone else had made a poor decision that evening and got behind the wheel of a car they were too intoxicated to drive. The pastel man's glorious voice filled the room again. I seemed to be hearing it from all directions. The drunk driver that crashed into your family's cab is still alive, and in the very same hospital as your son. Why not him? For the first time that evening, I looked into the large pink eyes of the creature. You said it had to be someone I know. Semantics. It just needs to be someone who has directly impacted your life. The moment he drove his car into your wife and son's taxi, he became a candidate. The pastel man flared the tiny holes on its face with glee, the way it always did when it was content with itself. Fine. Let's do it, I said. I shook its giant hand to make the arrangement official. And with that, the pastel man gave me the instructions to complete our deal. When I met with the doctors at the hospital, they updated me on the condition of my son. We've done all we can, but he's a fighter. The doctors feigned optimism, but I could see in their eyes that they didn't expect him to make it through the night. They led me to his room and gave me some time alone with him. The pastel man was already there when I entered, smiling down on his broken body. Quickly, I shut the door behind me and nodded to the creature. It reached a gangly arm into its satchel and pulled out the same type of strange-looking insect it had shoved down my father's throat. It opened Matthew's mouth. With two grubby fingers, the creature crammed the bug deep into his oral cavity. He will make a full recovery. Now, it's your turn. The pastel man waltzed behind the hospital curtain in my son's room. I knew I didn't have to check to see if it had disappeared. If it were to make another appearance at the hospital that evening, then it would be because I spoke its name. When I agreed to the bargain at my office, the pastel man had told me what room the driver was being kept in. His injuries were far less severe than Matthew's, so he was in a different wing of the facility. I could feel my heart pounding as I made my way towards his room. With each step, the beating in my chest grew louder. Already, that same feeling of guilt I had felt while I looked down at Walter's corpse lying in the middle of the road washed over me. I was about to take another person's life. Who was I to decide whether someone deserved to live or die? I felt just as ugly and horrible as the pastel man looked. Maybe I didn't have pointed teeth or wrinkly blue skin. But if I knew that if I went through with our deal, then I was going to be as big of a monster as it was. I stepped as stealthily as possible through the door, hoping no one would notice me sneak in. As I looked down at the face of the driver, lying unconscious in his bed, I instantly felt that familiar sickness in my stomach. He was a boy, no older than Walter, the night the pastel man and myself unfairly snuffed out his life before it truly had a chance to shine. Walter could have become someone different when he matured, someone capable of doing real good in this world. But he was never given the opportunity. This driver was just a stupid teenager who made a mistake, one that he'd never get the chance to atone for. I saw Walter in the boy's face, and my stomach began to churn more. I tried to call out the pastel man's name, but couldn't. Perhaps that little angel on my shoulder wouldn't allow me. I would not be responsible for the death of another boy. Not this time. I refused to pull that trigger. I walked out of his room and didn't look back. Spent the rest of the evening sitting next to my son's bed. The first few rays of morning sunlight snuck into Matthew's hospital room and caught my attention. I peeked out through the blinds and watched the sun rise for the first time since the night Walter died. It was beautiful. The pink ribbon that lined the horizon had bled into the sky, creating a dazzling purple hue. I had my light show, and it was spectacular. I broke my deal with the pastel man, and in doing so, my fate now rests in its filthy hands. Hands that it likely plans on burying into my abdomen. On the plus side, my son will recover in full. It will be hard for him growing up without his parents, but he's always been close with his aunt. My wife's sister is a wonderful woman with a caring family. She's his legal godmother and promised us, the day he was born, that she would always be there for him. Her husband does well for himself, and they've never had a problem with money. The life insurance policy Diana and I took out, combined with the money we had been putting away for Matthew to go to college, will ensure that there should be no financial issues while he's under their care. It's only a matter of time before the pastel man comes for me. I've accepted that my death is near, but I'm not scared. In a way, I look forward to it. It's almost as if the boy that died within me on that terrible night has been given another chance. When I die, all the guilt and hate that I've had for myself dies with me, wiped away so that my soul can cross over to a new plane of existence, pure and innocent, the way it was before I ever met that monster. One must die so another shall live. That's what the pastel man said. Deep breaths, guys. Deep breaths. Chilling, dude. Chilling. Ugh. Gah. I feel like the pastel man's gonna pop up and be like, "Hey, Mitch, your mom and dad are actually dying right now. But guess what?" I'll be like, "Oh God, oh God." Yeah, what's the deal if you just say no? What's the deal with that? I guess your loved one just dies. That was heckin' vivid. Streamy, buddy. Oh, frick, yeah. Duh, my bad. I agree, Streamy. It's like drugs. Just say no. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. It's a good lesson to take from this one. Or, I don't know, maybe it's more that everything comes at a price. And when you're dealing with life and death, that really is the case, right? One life can only be replaced by another. But can it even? I don't know, dude. When it comes to life and death, that's like a tricky subject. Here's the lesson. Don't fuck with demons. Duh. Come on, guys. If you see, I mean, yeah, dude, honestly, like if you guys saw something like that, like would you even have been able to get up the courage to even speak to it? Much less accept its deal? Because, I mean, if I'm thinking about it, I don't know if I would even be able to utter a word. Like, you know that whole fight, flight, or freeze thing? Like reactions to when something intense pops up? I'm a freezer. I freeze. Most of the time. I freeze and then flee. I'd be like, lol, bye, dad. See ya. Yeah, honestly, though, anything to get the pastel man out of my face any quicker. Yeah, I agree. Doesn't really need to be a lesson. Guess what I do? What you do? Shite in me pants. Now, honestly, that's an appropriate time for that. Yeah, it's an appropriate time for that. I'd like to know, like, what's the record of people like shitting their pants out of fear? Oh, right on. I'll miss you, Streamy. But thanks for sticking around. I think you got to be here for one of the best stories we had tonight. So good stuff. Have an awesome night, dude, and sleep tight. Don't let the pastel men bite. Phew. Dang. Whew. Okay, well, we're definitely gonna go to a break after that one. I think everybody could use a little shake and a shimmy. Uh, after that one, goodness. Hang on. Also, I'm gonna pull up uh Dress of White Silk real quick, just so you can see me better. um, let's get rid of that. All right, heck yeah. So, guys, we're gonna jump to a break. That was an awesome story. Freaking chilling. I hope I did like the voices justice, especially the pastel man. I realized kind of after the first line that I don't know, it described how his voice sounded only at the second line. So I was like, oh, it's meant to be angelic. Whoops. Um, but yeah, so during this little break here, I encourage everybody to stand up, uh, stretch out a little bit. Go ahead and get yourself like a glass of water, like slap your face a little bit, like shake yourself out of the spooks, um, and mentally prepare yourself for what is to come. I believe we're gonna break up now that we've read two stories. We're gonna break up the stories with that webcomic, um, which I'm immensely excited for. Uh, I I'm a little worried too because I feel I'm gonna be spooked. Um, but I suppose you guys will be spooked right alongside me. So I look forward to it. Um, yeah, get yourself some water or a blanket or something, a warm drink or something, help cool your nerves. Uh, and we'll be back in about 10. So we're about at like the 1 hour 35 marker in the stream. So once it hits 1:45, I'll try to be back around then. For those in EST time, we're at 11:05. So we'll be coming back at 11:15 roughly. All right, don't go nowhere, my spooky wildflowers, and keep on wilting while I'm gone. All right, much love. I'll see you very soon. Well, welcome back to SYMP Saturday. Yo, how's it going, May? How you doing? Glad to see you're back. You missed one of the best stories we've read, at least tonight. If you want to check it out sometime, it's called The Pastel Man by Vincent V. Cava. A fairly well-known creepypasta writer. All right. Dude, I know, right? I wish I was on fire. You know, because then I'd be on fire. Know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying? Yeah, welcome back, guys. Did everybody have a good break? My break was pretty nice. I sipped my kombucha and used the restroom and stretched a whole lotta. You got an apple and a cat. That's a blessed combo. Also water. Sick. Yeah, I drank a little water as well. Some good stuff. So let's go ahead and jump on over to the webcomic we'll be reading tonight. There's a little warning here at the start, which is good. Warning. This webtoon is a special horror episode for this summer season, since it contains shocking scenes. Reader discretion is advised for pregnant women, the elderly, and those suffering from serious medical conditions. Oh, the stream is laggy for you? Shoot, I don't know. I don't know what's up with that. Is it because of distance or something? I don't know if that affects things or not. Oh, also, I wanted to ask. Say no if you prego. Wanted to ask, could you guys hear the music during the break? I don't know, I heard, I saw Crample said no music at all. I got a little worried because I've had some ambience in the background too. It was silent. That should not be the case. You guys can hear me though, yeah? Oh, okay. Well, dang. I think I know what the deal is. Weird. Okay. Can you hear the ambience now? I'm gonna be quiet for a second. You can hear that ambience? Sweet. Okay. So there's like tracks in the Streamlabs that I use. And I thought that meant, you know, similar to how my audio processing software works, or my my digital my DAW, digital audio workspace, tends to work, where there's multiple tracks, where there's multiple tracks, but they all go to the same output, you know, the same stereo output. And so I thought when it said that there were, you know, friggin' tracks, I thought that if I put one on the first track, like my voice on the first track and the headphone stuff on the next track, it would help them to not, like, I don't know, collide, or it would help with the audio. I don't know. Regardless, though, I'm glad that you guys could at least hear me. Sad that you couldn't hear the ambience. It helped me get into character, at least. Which was nice. Oh, who? You mean this guy? Do you mean this guy? Are you talking about this guy right here? Spooky Tyson. Yeah, Tyson does have a rad name. And he is rad in the book, for sure. Yes, but also, no! No! Please, no! Hey, I mean, hey, Lamau. Am I right? Alright, enough. Uh, uh, sorry, he's saying no because he hates this Tyson right here. He's from the Percy Jackson series, the books. He's a Cyclops that is the brother of Percy, the main character. But in the movie, he's, I don't know, he's no good. Not nearly as good as the Tyson in the book. Big lol. Hey, Lamau. Hey. All right. Let's check this out. Everybody has been properly warned. If you prego, then get outo. And yeah, let's check this out. I am severely worried. And fair warning, I think this thing does have jump scares. So buckle up and get ready. Ooh, this is the most terrifying thing of all. Adobe Flash Player is not working. Bum bum. Yeah, wow. It was around 11:20 that night. I was dragging myself home, exhausted after a tiring night study session at school. But there was no one on the street, which I thought was strange. I usually see a lot of people, even at night, since my apartment complex is pretty big. Anyways, feeling scared, I kept looking down on the ground while walking home. Suddenly, a shadow stretching towards me caught my eyes, although there wasn't anyone around me. I looked up to see who was there, and saw a woman walking in front of me, but she looked a little strange. I could say that she looked crippled. She was limping and struggling to walk in front of me. Since she was walking very slow, I soon caught up with her. Up close, I was able to see her even better. No, you're not alone, dude. I've never seen this. She was wearing dirty pink pajamas, looking as if all her joints in her body had been twisted. Worse, her hair was a mess, sticking out everywhere. Hang on. How you gonna tell me that that's worse than her joints all being broken? It seemed so weird that I stopped walking. It felt like I shouldn't get any closer to her, nor did I have the guts to pass her by. You know, people say that if you are really surprised, you can't even scream. That was right. I froze there, not being able to move at all. Where's my baby? My thoughts were racing to her question. Oh my god, I don't even know what I was thinking when I did that. It gives me chills thinking that moment. I answered, pointing as far as I could. Over there? I just wanted her to get away from me. Then she limped towards where I had pointed to. And I couldn't see her anymore. Fearing that I might run into her again, I tried to turn around and leave that apartment complex. I could not think of anything but to get to a place where there would be people around. At that moment, "She's not here!" I heard her screaming from far away. I don't remember anything from then on. I heard that my neighbor found me passed out on the ground and took me home. In 2007, at an apartment complex in Bangcheon-dong, Gwanakagu-so, a 33-year-old woman jumped off the apartment and died on the spot. I jumped off the apartment balcony and died on the spot. Known as surname Cho, a divorcee due to her extramarital affair, she had lost her custody of her 2-year-old daughter and decided to commit suicide. After that incident, Cho was seen walking around the apartment complex several times. After that incident, Cho was seen walking around that apartment complex several times. Whew. That was shorter than I anticipated. But still good. I'm sorry I couldn't, scream full-fledged. My roomies are trying to sleep. They have to get up early in the morning. So I will not be screaming in the morning, or I will not be screaming tonight. Yeah, those two lines at the end are the same thing. I think the translation is a little wonky. I don't know how to navigate this website. Not sure if I could find another one. Translate. Go. Mystery short stories from Naver Webtoon Thrillers. Naver Webtoon Writers. This summer, your spine is thrilling. Omnibus. Guys, watch out. This story is omnibus. Webtoon of interest. First view. List view. List view? Oh, I'm guessing this one is another? Aha! I have found them. Guys, I'm so good. Heck yeah. Yeah, this concept is good, isn't it? Alright. Enable flash if I can. How do I do that? How do I enable flash? Hang on. Wait, is this flash? How to enable flash on Chrome. Go to the site with the video or game. To the left of the web address, click lock or info. At the bottom, click site settings. Site settings. Okay. Word flash. Allow. Aha. Sick. I figured it out. Voila. Et voila. Are you talking about down under where my mouse is? In the follower goal? Yeah, that's from the Junji Ito series. It's the one with the dude that has like a million of generations of brains on his brain. It stacks up like a centipede. You know that one? It's a weird one. I mean, yeah, heck yeah. Thank you, Cramples. I wouldn't have thought to do that. So again, guys, this webtoon, or warning, this webtoon is a special horror episode from this summer season. Since it contains shocking scenes, reader discretion is advised for pregnant women, the elderly, and those suffering from serious medical conditions. Oh, you only know a few Junji Ito stories? I know most of the ones that were made into the anime. But I haven't read all of his works, sadly. Be cool if I could read them on here, but don't know if that is allowed or not. But we may do it for a while. I don't know, if there's not many peeps here. See if we can do it under the radar. Alright. This story is based on a posting and picture on C Bulletin Board of D Community website in 2009. Luckily, I am not late for the last train. There are not many people in this station. I guess it's because the time is almost up for the last train. Anyway. That woman looks so ridiculous. That is why you should drink moderately. She looks like she's dancing. That is so hilarious. I can't keep this funny scene only to myself. Name: Engineer Geek in Yeon Shinai. Title: Completely wasted woman is staggering in front of me. Lol. Lol. Waiting for last train at Oksu. A wasted woman is staggering. Her head banging is hilarious. Ha 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 ha. Number of comments: 3. Hwang Junho. Is she hot? Lol. Atak. Is she hot? Ha ha ha. Im Mansyap. Is she hot? Ha ha ha. Lol. Men are the same. Her mussed up hair is covering her face. Can't see her face. Lol. She rocks. Haha. Post her pics. Come on, make it quick. Gotcha. Hang on. I feel sorry, but let me just take one picture of her. Hammered woman pics. Ha 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 ha. She's constantly walking back and forth, staggering. What if she falls down to the rail? She is pretty hammered. But her body seems hot. Boom. Huh? Oh my god, she bumped her head. Oh no, she's bleeding. Will she be alright? Hammered woman slammed her head on the wall. But what's real creepy is that she's bleeding pretty bad on her forehead, but still staggering and walking around. Maybe I should walk up to her and help her out, right? OMG, call 911, lol. Once you give her your arm, she will throw up on you. Drop that 911. Call the janitor. That's what you become when you are wasted, lol. Hey, mind your own biz and get yourself out of here. This guy is so cold-hearted. If he leaves, how is he going to go home? No, I just think that something is going on looking at the picture he posted. It looks like a psychic photo. Crazy. Are you saying she's a ghost? Lol. Ghost story. What a piece of crap. No, I'm not saying she is a ghost. There is a blood-covered hand snatching her hair and pulling towards the track. No, that can't be true. Maybe I should let this guy continue. Looking closer, I don't think she's staggering, but striving not to be dragged to the tracks. OMG, You are creeping me out. You're giving me the chills. Don't you dare get closer to her to help. Visible even on the photo? That is not just an ordinary demon. Are you like an exorcist? Screw demon. Hahaha. Golden Hairtail. Are you a psycho? Lol. I am not an exorcist, but I have been able to see ghosts since young. Anyways, get yourself out of there quick. What about that woman? I might sound so cold-blooded, but if I were you, I would never get close. You might also be drawn into that. What a big joke they're making. Uh-oh. Where did she go? She is gone all of a sudden. She's gone while I was reading your comments. Looking up after reading the comments, she was gone. OMG. Is she really possessed? Then what about the pigs? Maybe she fell down onto the railroad. Check the tracks. Okay, let me check it out. Ding 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 ding. A train for Goopa Ball is now approaching. Please stay back behind the safety line. Ding 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 ding. What? What the hell is that? Oof. Check out the tracks. Okay, let me check out. I don't think you should go. Why isn't Engineer Geek and Hyun Shinai coming back? Why isn't he coming back? He probably went home. He didn't make it back. Next morning, there was a newspaper article on a man and a woman who committed suicide in Oksu Station. Many thought they were lovers. Police investigation, however, unveiled that they had nothing to do with each other. That got me, guys. I don't know about you guys. But that definitely got me. That freaking hand, dude. I scrolled through it so slowly too. Golly. Oh, dude. Cause I mean, gosh, that red glowy eyes is of course where your eye will go, or at least where my eye went. Oh god. Kombucha soothe me. Better. Alright, cool. Going for another one? Or do you want to switch over to another written story? That was a good story. I actually kind of like it better than the first one. This one, though, is apparently the best of the bunch. Oh wait, no. This one is apparently the best of the bunch. How about this? We read one more story, and then we come back and check out the top rated one of the bunch. Or I don't know, we probably ought to go in order, right? I don't know, I guess it doesn't seem like they're connected or anything. That was a good scare, though. The Onda say pretty good, but I choose Mitch, sir. Uh, could you clarify what on to say means? Or on to see, se? On to se. One is. For I figured as much, sorry. This one is pretty good, but I choose Mitch, sir. Oh, well thanks, dude. That means we could jump over to... I'll give you an option. Another creepypasta, or the other... Or monkey spoons. Type 1 for creepypasta, 2 for monkey spoons. Yeah, the next one of these would be the last thing. Monkey, 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 monkey. Yeah, I was thinking we'll go back to the stories for a little bit, and then for maybe 1 or 2 more stories, and then come back for 1 more of these to end the night on. Alright. Looks like we're going to the monkey spoons. Look at that picture too. It's so good. I'm actually quite excited for this one. Let's do it. The Monkey Spoons by Mary Elizabeth Councilman. Scroll through the pic slow so you can look at it. The little shop seemed to have taken the musty, worm-eaten quality of furniture and relics it offered for sale. There was an all-pervasive odor of mildew and decaying wood. Dust motes whirled in a shaft of sunlight as the street door opened, with the hushed tinkle of a bell above, the sedate gold letters. Jonathan Sproul, Antiques. The 3 young people who entered, arm in arm, looked as out of place in the shop as 3 children at a board meeting. The girl, a vivacious brunette with a large diamond solitaire on her left hand, linked the 2 men together. One, a tall, easygoing Norse blonde, the other small, wiry, and dark, with sensitive features that resembled those of a girl. They stopped for a moment, laughing and chattering together, but in lowered tones, somewhat subdued by the atmosphere of the old shop. No, not 3 rings, Bob. Rings are so trite. The girl was protesting. What we want is something unusual. Eh, Alan? Something distinctive to link us 3 together always, like the 3 musketeers, and remind us of our undying. She broke off with a stifled gasp as a stooped, wrinkled gnome of a man, a hunchback, scuttled out from the shadowy recesses at the rear of the place. There was something spider-like about his appearance, until he smiled. Large, luminous brown eyes beamed upon each of them in turn. I overheard, he murmured in a mellow, friendly voice that matched his eyes. You are looking for some little memento. His eyes drifted keenly to the girl. Soon is your wedding day, yes? He hazarded. And you, and your brother, and your fiancé wish to buy some antique curio in, revolting term, triplicate, as a bond of love and remembrance? The trio glanced at one another, jaws dropping. Why, yes, the girl laughed. You must be a psychic.
Observation, merely observation, and deduction.
The old proprietor chuckled pleasantly.
I have very little trade here, worse luck, and much time to meditate. Now, what did you have in mind? 3 identical snuff boxes, perhaps? 17th century? Or what about lockets? Renaissance Italian, with your pictures in each? I have found some that fold open in 3 sections. 2 of them could be worn as watch fobs, of course.
He smiled at the 2 utterly unlike but congenial young men. They grinned back at him, wandering curiously among the cluttered displays of crow's nest tables, hammered brass fire dogs, old spinning wheels, and 100 other reminders of generations past. Idly they wandered over to a showcase of antique silverware, ornate gold and silver sugar shells, pickle forks with tiny demons on the handles, little salt spoons, and graceful crisp-shaped butter knives. The girl strolled away by herself, poking about with quiet fascination. Presently, her eyes fell upon a small, worn, black velvet case, pushed half out of sight on a shelf. She leaned to open it, and called out eagerly, "Look! Oh, Alan! Bob, look! I found some monkey spoons!" She beckoned to her brother and fiancé. They smiled across the shop at the old proprietor, whose sudden look of agitation she failed to notice. "These are monkey spoons, aren't they, Mr. Sproul? I've never seen any with a drinking monkey perched on the knob. It's always something stylized, a fawn or a skull. These must be very old." The 2 men moved to her side, fondly amused at her excitement. The blond one, Bob, looked at the dark one, Alan, and spread his hands humorously.
"What on earth,"
he drawled, "are monkey spoons? Alan, if we're going to open that antique shop of ours, with my backing and Marcia's and your experience, you'll just have to brief me on these." The brother and sister started explaining. Jay, both at once, interrupting each other. They gave up laughing. Then suddenly, Mr. Sproul stepped forward, edging unobtrusively between the 3 young people and the black velvet box.
"Monkey spoons,"
he explained diffidently,
"were presented by the old Dutch patroons to honored guests and relatives as late as 17th century. They were mementos of some occasion, a funeral most often, as you can see from these very fine specimens."
Skillfully, he steered the trio away to another showcase, shutting the black velvet box behind him with a furtive gesture.
"These,"
he pointed out on one set of 5,
"are typical. Note the wide, shallow, fluted bowl of the spoons, very thin silver, bearing a hammered-out picture symbolic of funerals, a man on horseback delivering the invitations, with a churchyard in the background. These bear the likeness of Saint Michael, wearer of souls on Judgment Day. This one has a picture of a mourner weeping over a cinerary urn.
But what? Brr. Cheerful little trinkets, aren't they? Bob laughed, resting one hand on Alan's shoulder and sliding his other arm about his fiancée's waist. I mean to say, they passed out these things at funerals, like flowers at a party?
Not exactly.
Mr. Sproul smiled.
They were hung around the rim of the punch bowl at the dead feast. There was something like the Irishman's wake. A small silver lozenge, the seal, was always welded at the center of the handle, engraved with the name of the deceased and the dates of his birth and death. The handles are quite slender, as you see. They curl backwards like the end of a violin to form the knob, on which is mounted a silver fawn, or a skull, or
a monkey? The girl asked eagerly. Why, monkey spoons. Why monkey spoons, Mr. Sproul? She drifted over to the black box again and picked up one spoon. I've always wondered why they're called that.
That, the old dealer shrugged his humped shoulders, is an enigma among antique experts. One theory is that the monkey was simply a symbolic invitation to come and be gay at the dude feast. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow. Zuinging de monkey was an old Dutch expression meaning to get drunk.
Ah! Marcia's delicate nose wrinkled with distaste. I certainly wouldn't want everybody getting sauced at my funeral. They'll just have to sit around and cry soberly, or they'll get no monkey spoons from me. Remember that now, Bob. She laughed and planted a kiss on her fiancé's cheek. Hush. Her brother, the more sensitive of the two men, shuddered visibly. Marcia, don't be so morbid. People shouldn't joke about. Who's morbid? The girl laughed more gaily, winking at Bob. Oh, Alan, you're a sissy. Do come and look at these darling monkey spoons over here. Those with the drinking monkeys are very rare, aren't they, Mr. Sproul? There are only 3 of these. Her face lighted, and she whirled about at a sudden idea. Oh, why don't we choose these for our keepsake? I could have mine made into a scarf pin, Bob. Yours and Alan's could be watch fobs, and you could have them welded on silver cigarette cases. Some old Dutchman's funeral spoons. Wouldn't that be just too gruesome and clever? And, she added eagerly, we can call our antique shop the 3 Spoons. The people will drop in by the droves just to ask us why. Bob, darling, please buy them. Her fiancé grinned at her fondly, winked at her discomforted brother, and reached for his checkbook with a light shrug. All right, my precious, all right. Anything your foolish little heart desires. But funeral spoons, he roared with amusement. What a gift for the groom to the bride. Mr. Sproul, how much are you asking for? He broke off, caught by the expression on the face of the hunchbacked antique dealer. Mr. Sproul looked frightened. There was no mistaking that quiver in his mouth, or the agitation in his kindly old eyes.
Wouldn't you prefer something less expensive? He blurted out. Those particular spoons are almost a collector's item. Besides, he added in an oddly loud tone, they are not mine to sell, really. They are not mine. He emphasized those words queerly, and glanced toward the dark rear of the shop, as though he were speaking for the benefit of some skulking eavesdropper whom they could not see. The former owner, he lowered his voice again in apology, was a Mrs. Havisham, an elderly widow. Her heirs have not yet been located. She died in intestate about a month ago, shortly after buying the set of 4 monkey spoons at an auction. She kept 1 spoon and left 3 of them with me to sell for her at a profit, merely as her agent,"
he emphasized sharply, with another odd glance toward a particular dark corner.
"She kept a 4th spoon, not wanting to part with her entire collection. She was asphyxiated in her garbage,"
he added with apparent irrelevance.
"Carbon monoxide gas from her car. An accidental death, of course,"
he said quickly, again with that nervous glance into the shadows. The girl, Marcia, her fiancé Bob, and her brother Alan looked at one another significantly. The old hunchback was certainly peculiar, to say the least. A borderline mental case. Bob's raised eyebrows suggested. With a glance at his fiancée's disappointed expression, he became brisk and businesslike. "Well, you have the legal right to sell the spoons, though, and collect your commission," he pointed out shrewdly. "How much?"
$500.
Mr. Sproul murmured, then added with a manner of pleading.
"That's exorbitant, of course, and I can find you something much more attractive for the price."
"Exorbitant? You can say that again! For 3 little spoons!" The blond young man whistled, good-humoredly, but uncapped his fountain pen.
That's $500 apiece,"
Mr. Sproul said hurriedly.
"For each spoon. Now, I'm sure you wouldn't care to pay so much for a whim. Let me just show you."
Bob set his jaw stubbornly, giving the old dealer an oblique look. "Mr. Sproul, don't you want to make this sale? Look, if you're trying to run up the price," he snapped, "just because my fiancé has taken such a fancy to—" He broke off, grinned abruptly, and spread his hands in rueful defeat. "All right, you old pirate. 1,500 it is." He smiled indulgently at the girl beside him, who was shaking her head violently. "If it's something you really want, darling, you shall have it." Old Mr. Sproul sighed deeply, with a tone of resignation rather than satisfaction.
"The price," he said heavily, "is $500 for the set, if you insist on buying it. But I must tell you this. Although I am sure you young people will laugh at me, or perhaps be even more intrigued by these devilish spoons. You see, they—"
Mr. Sproul gulped.
"They are supposed to be cursed."
The 2 men did laugh, but the girl's face lighted up. She clapped her hands, as pleased as a child with its first jack-o'-lantern. "Oh, a curse! How marvelous! Why didn't you tell us before? Now I simply must have them." The old hunchback nodded and shrugged.
"As I predicted,"
he murmured, then doggedly,
"those spoons are mementos of the funeral of an old Dutch patroon, Scholier van Grooten. You'll see his name on the seals, who owned and tenant farmed about half of the Connecticut Valley in the 1600s. Mrs. Havisham had an old Dutch diary written by one of his ancestors. I was able to translate only a few pages when I called at her home, but it seemed there were 13 spoons originally. Rather a significant unlucky number, as the patroon was secretly murdered by friends and relatives who would inherit his estate. One by one, The story goes he caused 6 guilty ones to die, exactly as he himself had died. The remaining owners of the monkey spoons became frightened, finally, and gave theirs away, thereby escaping his vengeance.
But anyone who owns the spoons inherits the curse? Is that it? Marcia cried delightedly. Alan, isn't it exciting? Oh, Bob, do give Mr. Sproul a check before somebody comes in and buys our haunted spoons right out from under our noses.
The antique dealer looked at her and sighed. He saw the girl's brother bite his lips, frowning. But the blond young man grinned at his fiancée and wrote out a check for the 3 monkey spoons. Opening the black velvet box, he presented one of the spoons to Marcia with an exaggerated bow. The second he gave to Alan, holding it over his wrist like a proffered rapier. The third spoon he thrust carelessly into the pocket of his tweed coat. Then, laughing at his horseplay, Marcia offered an arm to each of the 2 young men, and they marched out together, whistling in harmony into the sunlit street. Behind them, old Mr. Sproul, although he was not a very devout Catholic, crossed himself. He ran a finger around under his collar and inhaled noisily, aware all at once of the extreme stuffiness of his little shop. It was unusually close in here today, he thought, almost stifling. He scurried to a window and flung it open, gulping in lungfuls of cool autumn air, as if, for some reason, he found it terribly hard to breathe. It was almost closing time, about a week later, when the bell above his door tinkled again, and two of the attractive young threesome walked into his shop. Mr. Sproul scuttled forward to meet them, beaming in recognition, but his smile faded at sight of the grim expression on the blond man's face, and the stunned, swollen-eyed look of the pretty girl. She had been crying, the old dealer saw, and Bob, her fiancé, was tight-lipped and cold with anger. "Yes?" Mr. Sproul murmured hesitantly. "You were not satisfied with your purchase." An odd look of hope leaped into his eyes. "You wish to return the spoons, perhaps? Of course, I shall be glad to refund your—" For answer, the blond young man thrust one of the delicate little spoons under his nose, pointing to the tiny silver seal welded at the center of the handle. "Is this your idea of a joke?" he snapped. The antique dealer blinked, putting on an old-fashioned pair of square-lensed spectacles, peered at the spoon. The blood ebbed slowly from his face. I don't understand," he stammered. "When I sold them to you, the inscriptions read, Scholier von Gruten, born August 3rd, 1586, died June 8th, 1631. But now, it now reads Alan Fentress, born September 14th, 1924, died November 3rd, 1949. Why," he broke off, "that's yesterday." A sob from the girl, and she buried her face against her fiancé's shoulder, weeping wildly. Bob glared at Mr. Sproul. "Yes," he said harshly, "and Alan was drowned yesterday, November 3rd, 1949. The death date engraved on that damned... How the devil did you get a hold of Alan's spoon?"
He towered over the old cripple threateningly. "You sadistic old... You took that seal off, didn't you? And welded the new one on, just to stir up some freak publicity and boom trade to your crummy little shop. But Alan," he ground out through clenched teeth, "why did you have to pick on Alan? Because you knew he was moody and susceptible to suggestion? Because you knew he'd brood over your little hoax not telling us? His painting wasn't going well lately, so you thought it would be a cinch to drive him to suicide. Out there in the lake yesterday, he just stopped swimming and went under. When I got his clothes from the locker room, I found this damned spoon you changed, like a death sentence." Mr. Sproul gasped, looking first at the dead youth's angry friend, then at his grieving sister. Oh no," he protested. "My dear young people, you surely don't accuse me of... You're upset. Who wouldn't be? It's the curse," he said quietly. "Remember, I did my best to warn you." "To plan your story, you mean?" The young man snarled, glaring at him furiously. He led the girl toward the door. "Come on, darling. I might have known we'd get no satisfaction out of this. This cold-blooded old ghoul. But let me tell you," he threw back furiously at the antique dealer, "when I locate the engraver who changed that inscription, or find out how you learned Alan's birth date, I'll come back here to kill you." The door slammed with an agitated jingle of the little bell. Mr. Sproul stood for a moment, wringing his hands miserably. He had liked those three light-hearted young people on sight, and would not for the world have wished harm to befall any of them. But there were forces a crippled old man could not combat, forces older than any item in this musty little shop, older than logic, older than time. "Oh, dear heaven," the hunchback moaned. "Why didn't I tell them to give those spoons? Why didn't I tell them to give those other 2 spoons away? Melt them down, bury them, anything. If that diary had only told how Van Grooten died, perhaps I could have warned them to avoid... But there were only hints. The writer never did come out and say. But that young man is intelligent. Perhaps he could come to some conclusion that I've missed." He turned and ran for the telephone directory, leafing through it hastily to find the names of Fentress or Millam. The signature on the young man's check. For an hour he clung to the phone, calling every Fentress and Millam in the book, but there was no Robert Millam. Mr. Sproul tried the hotels, then the funeral homes to trace the dead brother Alan. Finally, he hung up, defeated, concluding that they were all from out of town. He sat staring at the telephone then, wringing his wrinkled old hands in helpless anguish of one who can only wait for disaster. But the period of waiting was not long. 3 days later, just at noon, the doorbell tinkled again. Mr. Sproul looked up from a 6-branched candelabra he was polishing, to see a disheveled figure swaying a few feet in front of him. It was Bob Millam, his face drawn and covered with a stubbled beard, his eyes bloodshot and puffy from drinking. In his hand, he held an ugly, little automatic. Mr. Sproul caught his breath and stood very still. Then, despite his own fear, he burst out.
"Oh, my poor young friend. The second spoon. Your fiancé."
The blond man's mouth twisted with pain and bitterness. For reply, he flung another of the monkey spoons at the old dealer's feet. Mr. Sproul stooped to pick it up. He paled and nodded. The tiny oval seal on the handle was engraved to read, Marcia Fentress, born April 17th, 1927, died November 6th, 1949. At the old man's nod, Bob's eyes narrowed. He said not a word, but the ominous click of the safety catch on his gun was eloquent enough. Yet there was more pity than terror in Mr. Sproul's face. "Oh," his murmur of shocked sympathy had a genuine ring.
How did she..."
"My fiancée," the young man grated bitterly, "was terribly grief-stricken at her brother's death. You figured on that too, didn't you? You insane, twisted..." His voice broke on a sob of impotent rage. "Alan and Marcia were inseparable. We three were, in fact. Marcia couldn't sleep, so last night she took a big dose of sleeping pills. While..." He gulped, then plugged on miserably. "While she was drugged, a very large beauty pillow on her bed fell over her face somehow. It wasn't the sleeping pills. She smothered to death. The coroner called it an accident," he lashed out, "but I call it a murder. You murdered Alan too. I can't prove it, but I surely as hell can." With a sob, he leveled the gun at the old antique dealer's heart, his mouth working with hate and grief. At sight of his tortured young face, Mr. Sproul dabbed at his eyes, oblivious to his own danger.
"My poor, unfortunate young friend,"
he murmured, pityingly.
"You can't believe I would cause such a tragedy for a few paltry dollars. I did not change those seals, but I cannot hope to persuade anyone as matter-of-fact as yourself to believe in the supernatural. The diary recounts that when each guest at Van Gruten's dude feast died, their spoons changed too. Mrs. Havisham's seal altered also. The lawyer found it later among her effects, but assumed it to be the grim jest of some house servant."
Bob Millam snorted derisively, but the murderous anger in his eyes ebbed slowly, and the gun in his hand wavered. "You're insane," he said heavily. "Maybe you don't even realize you've changed those seals. Maybe your twisted mind really believes all that silly guff stuff. Or guff about some old Dutchman who..." His shoulders slumped all at once. He swayed, passing one hand over his bleary eyes. The gun in his other hand clattered to the floor. Suddenly, he snatched the monkey spoon and flung it down the furnace grating. "Insane," he mumbled. I can't shoot a crazy, crippled old man in cold blood. But... oh, why did you do it?" he groaned, staring at the hunchback. "Why, Mr. Sproul? Why? My best friend, and then my fiancée. I'd gladly have signed over my whole bank account to you. If it was money, Oh, please," the antique dealer cried out in despair. "You must believe that I had no part in. I tried to phone you, to warn you, tried to figure out the manner of death so you could avoid. But they all died so differently. Mrs. Havisham asphyxiated, your friend drowned, and your lovely fiancée." The old man's eyes widened suddenly. "Ah, now I understand. It's true. It all ties together. Listen to me." Bob Millen had turned unsteadily toward the door, but Mr. Sproul sidled after him like a small, persistent crab and seized him by the arm. No, wait, you must listen," he gasped. The diary mentioned that Scolia von Gruten was subject to sleeping fits, cataleptic. His inmate friends and relatives must have known that, but they... Wait, he begged. "Your monkey spoon, where is it? You must give it away at once," the old dealer insisted excitedly. To some impersonal agency. Scrap metal drive. Yes, that's it. Get it out of your possession, or you too will... So much hate, such hunger for revenge hovers about them. Like a piece of metal that has been magnetized, they can actually draw disaster to anyone who... But at that moment, the blond young man jerked his arms loose and plunged out into the street, wanting only to get away from this crazy old man who'd caused him so much grief in the space of a few short days. Mr. Sproul pattered after him, calling excitedly for him to wait, but by the time he reached the curb, Bob Millen had whistled down a passing cab and was climbing into it. The old hunchback hurried to the curb and strained to catch the address, but the young man was only telling the driver warily, "Drive around. Just drive. Anywhere. I don't care." The antique dealer's arms dropped to his sides limply in defeat. He watched the taxi speed out of sight, then turned slowly, and walked slowly, thoughtfully, back into his shop. The evening paper, left under his door as usual, carried the story. A taxi was ambling along 187th Street, where wreckers were busy razing an old warehouse. Somehow the dynamite charge went off sooner than was intended, and a crumbling wall of bricks and mortar fell on the cab as it passed. The cabby managed to dig his way out, but the single passenger, an intoxicated young man identified as one Robert Millen of New Jersey, could not be pulled out of the wreckage for almost an hour. He was dead when frantic workmen did finally reach him. Not crushed, but trapped, without air, in the rear seat of the taxi cab. And in his pocket, the police found a peculiar-looking spoon, inscribed with his name, the date of his birth, and the very date of his death. Mr. Sproul finished reading, and took off his square-lensed glasses, and polished them with a hand that trembled. There was nothing, he mused philosophically, really nothing at all, that he could have done to save those three nice young people, who had all three died the same way, fighting for breath, smothered to death by one agency or another. Just exactly as Mrs. Havisham had died
in her exhaust-filled garage. And just as centuries ago, an old Dutch patroon, one Scholier von Gruten, had died, clawing and screaming and gasping for breath in his coffin, awakened from one of his cataleptic trances to find that his greedy heirs had deliberately buried him alive.
Dang, dude. That was good. I agree about the severe lack of monkeys. At least there was like the engraving of a monkey, I guess, on the container. But that was so good. Dang, it was, you know what got me about it? It's unique, dude. It's unique. It seems unique, at least. Yeah, dude, that poor old man. He was just honestly, like, his character was one of my favorites to play, I think, tonight. The character of like this, kind old man, but suddenly worried, because he knew about the monkey spoons. He did try, but maybe not hard enough. Who knows? Man. That was good too, because it wasn't necessarily like a chilling one, like the Pastel Man. It was more just a like, yeah, it's just a feel, like, how there's feel good stories? It's just a feel bad story. You know what I mean? Yeah, no, he's got that on his conscience. You're damn right. Feels bad, dude. Feels bad. Feels bad. It was clever, though. Very clever. I like that there was a bit of mystery to it, For like a brief second there where he's like, oh, I gotta figure out like what the heck like the death is and why it's this way, I think my favorite part, yeah. Yeah, I know it's like right near the end, but one of my favorite parts was yeah, there was nothing, he mused philosophically. Really nothing at all that he could have done to save those three nice young people, who had all three died the same way, fighting for breath, smothered to death by one agency or another. I think this part right there was my favorite line of the bunch. And the interaction at the start being so lighthearted, it's a really solid, I don't know, just a really solid writing, what do you call that? Writing tool. Yeah, a writing strategy. I didn't recommend it originally, but I said we should read it next, only because it had the word monkey in the title. Coleman, do you know why I even like found this story, or why it like stuck out to me among like the bunches and bunches of stories? It's because it had the word monkey in it. And when I saw the title, I did think of you, Gramples. Hmm. Nice. Okay, guys. It's getting a little late, so how about we do the last of these little comics and call it a night. This is in the same like stream of them, right? Oh. Well, it appears that we cannot. We cannot read that one. Is this one in English? This one is not in English. If I do this though, does it work? No. Were only a couple of them translated to English? So if I go to this one again, yeah, English. Why are these ones not in English? What? What? Dude, come on now. Man. I guess not all of them have been translated. Shoot. Oh, this one's in watercolor too, though. Oh. Try to guess what is that. Do you want me to read through one and like make up the story? Word. We'll do one that looked actually scary. Wait, we'll do. Yeah, no, this one. All right, warning: if you prego, don't looko. A street lamp flickers on and off. One day, I saw a shed. I walked past that shed, and was continuing to walk. But you see, I forgot how to walk. There was something lurking in the dark, maybe? Hello, I am missing an eye. Dude, that guy's totally missing an eye. What the frick's up with that, dude? Just kidding. I actually have 2 eyes, see? 2. Just like my fingers here. I have 2 eyes. And it was so. He did have 2 eyes. And with those 2 eyes, I looked down to a road. And on that road, I saw me. What the hell? I feel like I'm looking at myself. But I'm actually looking at a woman? Why is she hunched over like that? Is she motioning for me to come to her? For a second, I thought that she was me. But I guess I could go over there. But do I want to? You know, they call me Two-Eye Joe for a reason. And if I wound up losing my eye, it would look something like this. Or this. Or maybe this. Yeah. You see, this woman knows. She knows what would happen if I lost my eyes like her. I just wouldn't be good. Joke's on you. I do have an eye, says the woman. She does have eyes. Oh no, my whole theory. It's been uprooted. These sandals. I better turn to go. I better get out of here. I'm just gonna walk away. Just gonna walk away and keep holding on to my two eyes. Oh God. It feels like my eye has closed, and it has, but only one of them has. I think this is what they call a wink. I'm winking because I'm fearful that I'll lose the eye. I'm trying to protect it from that woman. Maybe she wants my eye. Does she just want one? Or is that me? I thought it was me once again, but it was not me. I guess I'll reach out. I don't know who this is, but hello? Are you okay? You seem to just be crouching. Did you lose your eyes? Oh. The heck, dude? I can wink too. It's not that special of a thing. He could blink. Man, you want to be like bros? We can both blink. I have an eyeball, and my eyeball can dilate. Can yours? And what did we learn today, guys? Never dilate your eyeballs. And don't mistake ladies on the road for you. I try not to talk to people with less than two eyes. Wait a second. You mean like this guy? Like this guy? Or what about this guy? Thank you. I tried. Wasn't a very coherent story, but hey, it was a story nonetheless. It was solid improv practice, not gonna lie. Well, alright guys, I feel like that's a solid note to end on. That was pretty fun. I feel like that would be like, I don't know. I'll hang on to like this reference, like this page, and maybe we can do another one of these where I try to come up with my own story for the panels. Oh God, that's when I realized I don't know how to walk. Dude, I even forgot what I called him. I think it was like, they call me Two Eyes Joe. Thank you, May. Thank you. Solid improv practice. Nice. Well, guys, this was a darn good night. Full of spooks. There were like kind of some parts in between where we were able to relax a little bit. We're ending on a good note, like a refreshing note. Johnny Two Eyes is good. I think I like it better than Two Eyes Joe. Wait, did I say Johnny Two Eyes? I might have. I'd have to check the VOD. Shoot. But heck yeah. As always, I'm gonna ask the question: what was your favorite story from the night? Was it the recounting from a child of the events of his cannibalism? Was it the recounting of the encounters with a blue, very tall entity that offered a deal? Was it the or was it the monkey spoons? Pastel man or monkey? Heck yeah. Yeah, dude, the monkey spoon surprised me. I honestly, that's probably my favorite of the night, simply because it surprised me. You know, I wasn't sure what to expect from it, and it was a good time. It was a good thing. It was a darn good story. Um, Also, like, just know you can also uh, give your feedback on just how the stream is run and put together in general anytime you like. Um, if ever you think of something that I could improve on, with the stream, or if you just ever have something that you felt went really well and would like to see again, please feel free to shoot that info my way, because I'm always looking to, or I really do want to improve this stream steadily as we go. Also, would you guys like to see Junji Ito return? Because I definitely would. I'm just nervous about copyright stuff. But I feel like, so, there was even an initial worry about, like, me reading books or even short stories online. But I think what would make it, like, okay is the fact that we talk about it afterwards, We hold a discussion, which brings it into new territory, right? It's not just simply I'm reading the book and then done with it, I'm not just saying, like, hey guys, allow me to redistribute this, like, this manga or this book, like, to you guys. It's an effort to practice my voice acting uh and have a chance to, yeah, like, chat about cool literature or cool manga with you guys. Cool literature. I don't know. That those are my thoughts on it. And in that line of thinking, I believe it's fine if we bring back Junji Ito. Um, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I'll give it a try next week. All right, guys. Yeah. Any final thoughts on the night? I had a good time. That whole hand thing really did get me though. I'm glad you told me to turn on the dang flash player. It was a good scare. You got a final thought? Well, what might it be? Aw, dude. I love you all. I love you all too. I honestly, I appreciate that we share this together on Saturday nights. It's a really cool thing. The fact that we get to, yeah, read through some literature and talk about it and maybe even learn something, joke around and stuff. I don't know. It truly is a delight, and I really do love all of you guys. I think you guys got, from what I can tell, through the chat, I think you guys got good personalities, um, and at the very least are eager and engaging, and it's incredible. It really is incredible. So heck yeah. Well done, my wildflowers. We're too great and too rad. It's true. We are pretty radical. That was my cool rad pose. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And also, sorry about the break being utterly silent. I guess it's kind of fitting because the night, like, if ever there was a night for that to happen, this would be the night because it fits with like the eeriness, I suppose. But I do apologize. I'll thankfully that problem is fixed and will be from here on. All right, cool guys. It's about like 45 minutes past midnight, so I'm gonna be starting to mosey my way towards bed. Now that we are a little more well read. Yeah, I gotta get up tomorrow and let out some chickens and fend off a rooster. That's not even a lie. I'm going to let out chickens tomorrow morning and fend off a rooster. Wish me luck. Wish me luck. Heck yeah. This was a good night. I think I'll play the slowed version of Hold Your Breath, the instrumental, as a means to get us up on that year. I also just realized that the intro theme. You guys didn't even hear the intro theme, did you? I was just sitting there. Dude, what? Does that mean I was just sitting there for a solid like 4 minutes at the beginning? Goodness gracious. Alright, that's a little bit worse. But at least we can laugh about it at the end. Thank you so much, May. Good night, everybody. Good night, May. Good night, Kramples. Thanks, everybody who stuck around, and may your dreams be filled with good stuff, and not terror. Again, thanks for sticking around. You guys rock. And, I hope my wildflowers keep themselves from wilting. And as I say always, take the merriment that we created today. We morphed it from maliciousness and malintent into merriment. And I want you to take that merriment and spread it to others tomorrow. Because there's plenty to go around. Alright. Love you guys. And I'll be seeing you tomorrow for Sci-Fi Sunday. Good night.
willies every time I think of it.